We start with those monumental events in Syria. The rebel coalition that toppled the brutal regime of President Bashar al-Assad and his father, a dynasty that had controlled the country for more than 50 years, says it's working to form a transitional government. Islamist fighters took the capital Damascus yesterday after sweeping through the country in less than a fortnight. People poured into the main square, chanting freedom after the rebels seized control. Well, let me take you now to the live scene in Damascus, where it is just gone 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And you can see there that there are dozens of people once again on the streets and gathering. They've been cheering and clapping, and we've seen them taking pictures, all after the news that the Assad regime is no more. Now, Syrian civil defence workers have deployed to the ousted Assad regime's notorious Sudnaya prison to investigate reports that people there are trapped in cells that are hidden underground. Now, the United Nations Security Council is to hold an emergency meeting later today to discuss the fall of the regime. Now, I want to show you some live pictures from the border. Now, this is the border between Syria and Lebanon, and there you can see that there are long lines of cars and other vehicles. This because many thousands of Syrians who fled during President Assad's rule have been returning both from neighbouring Lebanon and Jordan. Nearly 1.5 million of Lebanon's 5 million population are Syrian refugees. So they trying to make the way in from Lebanon to Syria. We've also seen similar scenes on the Turkey-Syria border. Now let me take you to Russia, where we have seen the Syrian opposition flag raised on the Syrian embassy there. Now, according to Russian state media, the deposed Syrian president, Bashar al-Assad, and his family have been granted asylum in Russia. But in the last hour, the Kremlin declined to confirm those reports. What a spokesman did say was, what happened has surprised the whole world, and in this case, we are no exception. Well, the United States has led international reaction to the fall of the Assad government, with President Biden describing it as a fundamental act of justice after decades of repression, but also a moment of risk and uncertainty. Well, we'll have the latest from Syria shortly, but first, this report from our Middle East correspondent, Hugo Bachega.
Tears of happiness. Gunshots to celebrate the moment many in Syria waited for decades to see. They are free of the Assad regime, and their country is at a turning point. It was an astonishing campaign by rebels. They advanced quickly. Last week, they took Aleppo, on the weekend, Homs, and in a matter of hours, they were in Damascus. In some places, they faced no resistance. The army was unable and apparently unwilling to stop them. This is the end of a brutal regime that didn't tolerate dissent. The Assads crushed any kind of opposition. They killed, arrested, and tortured their critics. When the rebels arrived in the capital, they went straight to a well-known prison to set the inmates free. This is their leader, Abu Mohammed al-Julani, head of the Islamist group Hayat Tahrir al-Sham. He took a victory tour of Damascus, visiting the historic Umayyad Mosque. My colleague Feraz Kilani was there for BBC Arabic.
A historic moment in every sense of the word. Ahmad al-Shar' Abu Muhammad al-Julani here for the first time in the great Umayyad Mosque.
The rebel commander has been playing down past links to al-Qaeda, saying he wants to build a Syria for all its people. The president fled as the rebels closed in. A statue of his father was pulled down, and his residence in Damascus was stripped bare by looters. People carried what they could without anyone to stop them. For Assad himself, Russian state media says he and his family are now in Moscow and that they will be granted asylum on humanitarian grounds. His fall is a major setback for his allies, Russia and Iran. but has been welcomed in the West.
We will engage with all Syrian groups, including within the process led by the United Nations, to establish a transition away from the Assad regime. We've taken note of statements by the leaders of these rebel groups in recent days, and they're saying the right things now. But as they take on greater responsibility, we will assess not just their words, but their actions.
Syrians are hoping for peace, but they fear chaos and even more violence. This is a fractured country. Different groups with different goals control different areas. Many are celebrating now, but the road ahead is far from clear. Bashar, BBC News, on the Turkish-Syrian border.